Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
Hello and welcome to Connecting the Dots, brought to you by us here at Snarful Solutions Group in Sacramento, California. It's Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. I'm Alex.
And I'm Morgan.
And it's a beautiful day here in Sacramento, isn't it? Sunny, getting up to about 91 degrees today. Definitely feels like summer's arrived.
Oh yeah, lovely here. A bit different elsewhere though. We're still seeing those severe weather threats, particularly in the central U.S. and down in southern Florida. Lots of rain, thunderstorms, flash flooding risks.
Yeah, definitely some intense weather hitting parts of the country.
Yeah.
And sounds like another system is moving towards the Four Corners too.
That's right. They're expecting more showers, potentially thunderstorms later this week from that one. So yeah, folks in those areas need to keep an eye on the forecasts.
Absolutely. Stay safe out there.
Quick look at the markets for Tuesday, June 3rd. The Dow Jones closed up at 42,309.71.
Okay.
And the S&P 500 finished the day at 538.2.
Got it. Okay, so that's the picture nationally and on Wall Street. Let's shift gears now and do our deep dive into the tech world. Today, we're connecting the dots on three really interesting tech stories, looking at what they actually mean for you.
Exactly. We're going to unpack the hidden infrastructure that's really making the AI boom possible, then look at a major creative tool making a surprising jump to mobile, and finally, dig into a big effort to build a whole new mobile OS ecosystem. It's all about the underlying tech shaping how we compute and connect.
Sounds great. Let's start with that first in the AI infrastructure. We hear so much about the amazing chips, right? The Nvidia GPUs, Google's TPUs. But you're saying there's more to it.
Oh, absolutely. That's really the core point from our sources here. Think of those chips like super powerful engines. But for the really massive AI tasks, like training these enormous language models, you need thousands of those engines working together.
Okay.
And for that to happen efficiently, they need incredibly fast connections between them, like unbelievably fast data highways.
So it's the communication between the chips that's becoming the bottleneck. Or, well, the area needing huge upgrades.
Precisely. Yeah, bottleneck is a good word. Imagine data centers just packed with these AI chips. To train one big model, you're shuffling enormous amounts of data petabytes back and forth between thousands of them constantly. If those links are slow, the chips just sit there waiting. It wastes time, wastes power.
Right.
So you need what's called a scale-out network. It's designed specifically to make thousands of these processors act like one giant distributed computer.
Okay, these internal data center highways. And the key players building them, according to the sources, are Broadcom and Marvell.
Those are the two big ones highlighted, yeah. They're central to this whole AI networking build-out. The demand for AI computing is just exploding, pushing this massive upgrade cycle for data center networks. We're talking moving from 400 gigabits per second links, which was state-of-the-art not long ago, to 800 gigabits, and now everyone's pushing towards 1.6 terabits per second. And Broadcom and Marvell provide the critical silicon on the chips that make those speeds possible. This is expected to be a huge growth driver for them, through 2025 and probably beyond.
Okay, so big tech companies building data centers obviously care.
Mm-hmm.
But why does this matter to me, the person using, say, an AI chatbot or an image generator?
Great question. It connects back directly to your experience. More efficient networks mean those services can respond quicker.
Yeah?
They can handle more complex requests, maybe generate images faster, or give you chatbot answers with less delay. And potentially, over time, as this infrastructure gets more efficient, it could make those services cheaper to run and maybe cheaper for you to use.
Right, that makes sense.
And there's another angle. Better networking makes it easier for different types of AI chips to work together in the same data center. That fosters competition between chip makers, maybe Google's TPUs competing better with Nvidia's GPUs, or Amazon's Trainium chips finding wider use. More competition usually means more innovation and potentially better prices for everyone.
Okay, so let's break down their roles. Broadcom is mostly about the switches, the traffic cops of the network.
Exactly. They dominate the market for high-performance Ethernet switching chips. Their Tomahawk line is kind of the industry standard. Tomahawk 5 is already out there, doing 51.2 terabits per second on one chip.
Which is just a staggering number.
It really is. And the next one, Tomahawk 6, is expected later this year, doubling that to 102 terabits per second. They also provide other key pieces like ways to connect the switch to the processors really fast using things like PCIe Gen 5 and co-packaged optics.
Yeah.
Their AI networking revenue is soaring up over 60%, which shows you the demand.
And Marvell, where do they fit in this picture? They're doing something called PM4 DSPs.
Right. So PM4 DSPs, digital signal processors, are crucial little chips that sit inside the optical modules or the active electrical cables that actually carry the data between switches and chips. Think of them as like translators and amplifiers, ensuring the signal integrity at these super high speeds.
Okay.
Marvell is the leader here. Huge market share, over 70%. It's a big business for them. Over $1.5 billion last year just from this. And they're also pushing the next generation, the 1.6 terabit stuff, using advanced tech like silicon photonics or SiPho, basically using light pulses on silicon chips for data transmission.
Now, the sources also mentioned this kind of tension, right? Nvidia has its own networking tech, InfiniBand, but the big cloud providers, Amazon, Google, Meta, they seem to prefer something else.
Yeah, this is a really critical dynamic. It's about open versus closed systems. If you're a giant cloud company spending billions on hardware, you want flexibility. You don't want to be locked into one supplier's proprietary system if you can avoid it.
Makes sense.
NVIDIA's InfiniBand is really good, highly optimized for their GPUs, but it is largely NVIDIA's system. The cloud giants who are building their own custom AI chips too, they naturally lean towards open standards.
And that's where Ethernet, pushed by Broadcom, comes in as the alternative.
That's the play. Ethernet is, everywhere. It's the standard. Broadcom is heavily promoting a technology called RoC. It's RDMA over converged Ethernet. Basically, RoC adds capabilities to standard Ethernet that make its performance, especially its latency, much closer to InfiniBand for these AI workloads.
So it makes Ethernet competitive for AI.
Exactly. It gives the cloud providers a viable, open, standard-based alternative. They can use regular Ethernet switches, potentially from multiple vendors, and still get the performance they need for these massive AI clusters.
And using standard Ethernet with RoC, does that mean they could more easily mix GPUs from Nvidia with, say, their own custom chips on the same network?
That's definitely part of the appeal. An open standard like Ethernet promises better interoperability. Plus, there are arguments about scale and cost. Some say Ethernet architectures can scale out to larger numbers of processors more easily than traditional InfiniBand fabrics, maybe. And standard Ethernet switches can handle traffic for both CPUs and GPUs, potentially simplifying the overall network design and saving costs compared to needing separate networks.
And it's not just Broadcom, right? Competition is driving this faster pace. Sources mention Innovium as pushing them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Competition is fierce. Innovium, before Marvell acquired them, was a major challenger with their Teralynx chips. They went head-to-head with Broadcom's Tomahawk on everything speed, how much data the chip could buffer, latency, power use. This constant push for more bandwidth and also trying to simplify the network, make it flatter to reduce delay and cost, that's what keeps companies like Broadcom and Marvell innovating like crazy.
So wrapping up this first part, it's really this hidden layer, the network plumbing built by companies like Broadcom and Marvell, that's critical to making all the AI stuff we're starting to see actually work and work faster.
It truly is the foundation. Without these high-speed connections, the AI revolution grinds to a halt. It's the unsung hero, maybe.
Okay, fascinating stuff. Let's totally shift gears now from the data center depths to something right in your hand or, well, potentially in your pocket soon. Photoshop on Android.
Yes. This is pretty big news for mobile creative types, or really anyone who edits photos on their phone. Adobe has launched a proper Photoshop app for Android. It's in beta right now.
A proper one, not like Photoshop Express or one of those lighter apps.
That seems to be the key thing here, based on the sources. It's built for mobile, obviously, touch controls and all that, but it brings over a lot of the core desktop power. We're talking layers, masks, complex selections, things you expect from real Photoshop.
Wow, layers and masks on a phone. That's significant.
Yeah. And they've included familiar tools like the spot healing brush, clone stamp, magic wand, but optimized for touch, plus some mobile-first things like tap select.
And the sources said it's free, during the beta at least.
That's right. That's the really appealing part for users right now. Download the beta and all the features are unlocked, free to use. No Creative Cloud subscription needed to try everything out while it's in beta.
Okay, you know what's coming next. AI. Does it have the Firefly stuff?
Of course. Can't launch a creative tool these days without AI, it seems.
Yeah.
Yes, Firefly-powered generative fill is built right in.
Whoa. So you can, like, type add a dog, and it adds a dog to your photo on your phone.
Pretty much. You can add things, remove things, expand the canvas, and have AI fill in the background, all using text prompts right there in the Android app. It's that same powerful generative fill from the desktop, now on mobile.
That's actually incredible. Making that kind of AI accessible on a phone is huge. What about people who maybe haven't used layers or AI fills before? Is there help?
Yep, they thought of that. Adobe built tutorials right into the app. They guide you through layers, selections, and how to use the AI tools. There's also a community forum mentioned so users can help each other out.
Makes sense. What kind of phone do you need? Does it require a super high-end device?
There are requirements. You need Android 11 or newer. And crucially, it needs at least 6 GB of RAM, but they recommend 8 GB or more.
Okay, 8 GB RAM recommended. That points to it being pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Probably for the AI features.
That's the likely reason, yeah. Those AI models, even if some processing happens in the cloud, still demand a good amount of local resource to run smoothly.
So, stepping back, what's the big picture here for Android users?
It's basically bringing truly professional-level photo editing and cutting-edge generative AI to Android phones and tablets. It's way beyond simple filters. You can do complex composites, serious retouching, AI magic, all on the go.
And after the beta, will it cost money?
The sources suggest it'll likely follow the iOS model, so the app might remain free to download, but accessing all the premium features, maybe things like Object Select, Advanced Blending, could require a subscription, something like maybe $8 a month.
Okay.
But importantly, if you already pay for Photoshop on your desktop through Creative Cloud, you'll likely get the premium mobile features included.
Right. So potentially a massive upgrade for mobile editing, especially if you're already in the Adobe ecosystem.
Definitely. It really blurs the line between what you can do on mobile versus desktop for photo work.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to our third story. A new phone from Huawei, the Pura X. But the real story is the operating system.
That's the angle, yes. So Huawei launched this phone, the Pura X, in China, and the design is, well, it's unique. It kind of folds like a flip phone when closed with a small outer screen, but then it unfolds sideways like a book to a larger inner screen. But you're apparently meant to hold it sideways and use that inner screen vertically in portrait mode. It's different.
Yeah, it sounds a bit unconventional. Okay, but the OS is the main event.
Correct. This Pura X is the first big flagship phone from Huawei running what they call HarmonyOS 5.0 or HarmonyOS Next. And the key claim, the really significant part, is that this version is supposedly completely free of Android source code.
Wow. So they've actually built their own OS from the ground up, ditching the Android base they used before.
That's the assertion, and it represents a massive strategic effort by Huawei. They're aiming to establish HarmonyOS as a genuine third major mobile ecosystem alongside Android and iOS. Not just a skin on top of Android, but a completely separate platform. They're pushing developers hard to build native HarmonyOS apps.
Okay, trying to build a whole new ecosystem. That sounds incredibly difficult. What's the biggest challenge for someone buying this phone then?
Apps. It always comes down to apps. Building an ecosystem takes years and huge investment. The sources point out that while Huawei's making progress, maybe aiming for 100,000 apps this year, up from 15,000 last year, that's still tiny compared to the millions on Google Play or Apple's App Store.
Right, millions versus maybe 100,000. That's a huge difference.
It is. And crucially, running HarmonyOS Next means no Google Play Store out of the box and no native compatibility with all those existing Android apps people rely on. That's the major hurdle for users outside of China, especially.
What else did the sources mention about the phone itself? Price, specs?
Price is around a $140 US equivalent in China. It uses Huawei's own Kirin 9020 chip, decent cameras, 50 megapixel main, plus ultra-wide and telephoto. It actually has good water protection, IPX8 for a foldable, and it features their new AI assistant, Harmony Intelligence. But yeah, key point, currently only sold in China.
Okay, so only in China, unconventional design, and a brand new OS with a very limited app store compared to Android or iOS. Why should someone listening here, likely not in China, care about this?
It's about the bigger picture, the global landscape. Even if you can't buy this specific phone, Huawei's serious attempt to build a viable third OS is significant. It shows a major player pushing hard against the Android OS duopoly. We should watch closely to see if HarmonyOS can actually attract enough developers and users to become a real global competitor over time. If they do succeed, even partially, it could eventually influence the choices and features available to all mobile users by injecting more competition to the OS market. It's a long game, but potentially impactful.
So it's a sign of potential future shifts, even if it doesn't directly affect most of us today.
Exactly. It's a major strategic move worth tracking.
Okay, so quite a range today. We dove into the critical network infrastructure making AI possible, thanks to companies like Broadcom and Marvell. We looked at Photoshop bringing serious power, including AI, to Android phones. And we examined Huawei's bold move with HarmonyOS, trying to build a new mobile world.
Yeah, 3 stories showing different facets of tech evolution, from the foundational hardware to software accessibility to platform competition, all of it impacting or potentially impacting the technology we use every single day.
It really makes you think. That Photoshop story, for example, with tools like generative fill becoming so easy to use on a phone, does that change what it means to be creative or skilled in photo editing? Is AI kind of democratizing some of those high-end skills?
That's a fantastic question to ponder. It certainly lowers the barrier for certain kinds of creation and manipulation. Where does that lead? It's something we'll definitely keep watching.
Absolutely. Well, that's our deep dive for today. We are here to help here at Snarful, so reach out on our website if you had any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.